Hey Nilesh, thank you for being here, man. How are you?
Thank
How are you
you.
doing?
I'm doing well, Shekar. Thank you very much for inviting me on this
Yeah,
podcast.
it's always nice talking to you. Uh, you know, um, I think if I remember right, you are part of the Up 2020 cohort. How
Yes.
many years has it been with Upeka now?
Um, it's been like 12 to 14 months.
14 months, right now.
Yeah,
And I believe we invested 100K in you sometime in Q3 of 2021. Is that correct?
that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, super. So one of the objectives, Nilesh, is to share your learnings with the rest of the community because you're part of a tight community in Upeka, and we want to doing this chat so that you can share your learning and your journey right so far. So we'll start with
Absolutely.
Nilesh. We'll start with asking you right talk about a little bit about yourself and explain how you decided to start this business, right? What you're doing.
Sure. So quickly, my background, Shekhar. I'm Nilesh, and I'm founder of Binary Corporation. We are a B2B SaaS company providing a smart utility platform to small and medium-sized utilities. Before starting this company, I was with TCS for 14 years and worked mainly in services business across globe, managing large banking customers like Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, and Vanguard. Uh, so when I started this company, I didn't start this with a brick premise that we are going to do utilities. It was a simple problem at that time. I come from the industry where we have handled the large technology problems, and
Okay.
being very close to seeing this solution, I was pretty confident that I can solve any problem in industry which requires a large technology transformation. So we started with a simple premise as a service company, and then I keep informing or sharing this with everybody. I'm not the one who chose utilities. Utilities are the one who chose us.
Okay.
And one day somebody walked in while we were sitting and chatting, and they said they have a project, and they need our help, to implement that. And we did that project. Fortunately, it was in the utility industry, and during the implementation, when I actually went on the ground and saw the kind of situation these guys are in, I saw a big opportunity. Because this industry, utilities, whether it's a electric, whether it's a gas, or whether it's a water, it's everywhere, it's a basic necessity. And from the technology adoption, or the the in solving business problems, the technology usage is comparatively low with respect to leading industries like banking and financial services.
Got it.
So we went on, customer went on telling us the problems one by one, various customers, and we went on solving those problems. And in the process, we discovered this product, which we have launched as a B2B SaaS product in the market.
But was there any specific reason why the entrepreneurial bug bit you? Like, uh, you know, uh, there must have been some point of time that you said, "Hey, I want to be an entrepreneur and not just be working for some large company."
So it's an interesting story. So my father wanted me to be a fighter pilot,
Ah, okay.
and that is like my childhood dream. And I kept on working, to get through NDA and other stuff. But when I was in 11th standard, I got to know I am a partial Colonel Brand, which is a
Oh,
bigger hindrance in the. And I still remain vividly, if I'm not able to become a fighter pilot, then what I'm going to do. And suddenly I remember that thought still, after so many years, that I wanted to do my own business. So
got it.
that's where this happened, like way early. But then I planned. I was knowing I come from the town three kind of cities, don't have much background. So I planned things. In the journey, TCS happened. Through TCS, global exposure happened. and I've worked across various functional areas, whether it's a software building or whether it's a marketing or sales or business operations. And around when I was 32, 33, I thought that's the right time. If I can do it, I can do it that time, or otherwise that opportunity will be missed. And by 2015, 16, I started this company.
Nice, nice, very nice. So for budding entrepreneurs, what would your advice be to find? Because one of the challenges the budding entrepreneurs have, they all want to be. Many of them want to be entrepreneurs, right? That's why they are budding entrepreneurs. They How do they find the right problem to solve? What would your advice be to them to find the right problem to solve?
So I believe the problem is in industry. In any given industry, in any given context, the problem lies there. uh, we can start with the premise that this can be a problem, but it doesn't. If you keep on working in house around that problem, you are just solving your hypothesis. You don't know how that problem looks like. So you need to go in the market, you need to start talking to various stakeholders, you need to see what kind of how they perceive the problem, what is the context, and that's how you can build what is that problem and whether people will pay if I solve this problem. That's very important. Otherwise there can be 100 problems, but if you solve, nobody is ready to pay. I will give you a simple example, right? Uh, we travel, right? We travel from point A to point B. It's a very simple thing that anywhere in the world or anywhere we will do. But then if we see the context, when you travel from point A to point B in India, it's different. Immediately taking a private vehicle or public transport will come to mind as a solution. But now if you change the context, you look in the US, then immediately you will either take a airplane or you will take a private car. But if you again look at Europe or any other geography, similarly your story changes. Because context changes. The problem is same. I want to travel from point A to point B, and this context, this particular intelligence, these secrets of industry are available with people in those geographies, in those contexts. You will
Got
have
it.
to go there. You will have to talk to those people. You will have to do that hustle, and the problem will appear you through those insights and things like that. I think that's how the problem can be identified. Sometimes customer will come and tell you the problem, sometimes the ecosystem will come and tell you the problem. uh, you will constantly look at and evaluate whether, if I solve this problem, if I bring the solution, will I able to sustain my business, will the value will be created, and for that value will customer will pay.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. So in your case, after you found the problem, did you think about raising capital? How did you raise capital, if at all, right? To actually bring your product idea, whatever you had,
Yeah.
to reality. What did you do?
So honestly speaking, Shekhar, I after a year in the business and we saw some early success and we were getting revenue, I did attempt to raise the capital. I went to a few people, I asked their advice, but then within a month or two I realized uh, it's a big task, because at that time your team is small. You have a half cooked story. You are the one who is doing sales, who is also paying a lot of attention when it's when you have to do product delivery or service delivery. So there are a lot of things that are happening simultaneously. Now you take another project in your fold, which is capital raising. It requires speech, it requires a lot of networking, it requires a lot of efforts. It can take anywhere between 3 to 6 months, right? And success is not guaranteed at that time because you are in early days. So I tried that initially and then immediately realized, if I go on this path, I will be wasting a lot of my energy and efforts. On the other hand, I realize if I put that energy and that efforts, limited energy and efforts I have, on customer business, on solving their problem, they are the one who is giving me a revenue or require capital,
Got it. Got it.
right? And it was a very clear choice rather than focusing on raising that capital. See, capital is important. Who
Sure.
provides that capital is not important, whether it's coming from the investor or whether it's coming from your customer, or it's coming from another sources. But what is the simplest path to get that capital? How much you need to let it go? How much efforts you are going to put in? I think that is important. And for me, in our early days, customer capital or customer revenue was most easiest way. That's
Oh,
the path I
that's
chose.
amazing, Nilesh. I think that's a very key message, for other founders, because what I'm hearing from you is that you were able to get your capital through your customers initially.
Yeah.
That's really important, right? People to know, because one is, as you mentioned, that the time to take get that, you're not defocusing your effort, you're actually continuing to build your business, working with your customers while you're doing this, so that's great. The other thing is, you look at the equity efficiency. You're not
Yeah.
really having to give away equity for doing that. You may be getting as an advance, you may be managing your cash flow through this capital that's coming from the customer. So I think this is very interesting.
Yeah, so we were able to, because of that, for when we started for first 3.5 year, we were constantly working with customer one after another, and that gave us almost $500,000 plus dollar ARR, which was
Okay.
bootstrap and cash positive, right? And that gave us the essential capital to forward, like invest into the business and start looking at the product from 2019 onwards.
19 onwards, huh?
Yeah.
Just okay. So your business has been around for how many years now?
So we are in business from last 5.5 years.
5.5 years. Okay. So we should talk about some of the challenges that you faced in the early stage. Let me first start by asking you, when you built your business and the product, right, the startup itself, was your aspiration to go global at that time, or were you looking at an Indian market?
No, no. So we didn't think this way at all. We just started with what we have got. So
Okay.
as I said, I kept on responding. What came our way, and we've been constantly busy in the right direction. So first customer say first somebody came first and said we have X problem. We went there, we solved that problem. In solving that problem, we went deep so much that we found out this is a bigger problem, and we started finding out who else have this problem. So we went to those people. So when
Got it.
we went to those people and said we have this solution, simple solution available. It can save you X dollar. It can give you X efficiency. They said, why don't you try in Y area, Z area? That's how we went on. Then we went to the another customer in gas. They said, okay, this is good, but along with this we have another problem. Can you also help us to solve that problem? So
So
they
this is a
had a
very good
CI.
example of, yeah, this is a very good example of effectuation. I'm
Yeah,
assuming that you got commitment at every stage to be able to allow
yes,
you to try and go deeper into that, right? I hope
exactly.
that's what
And
you did.
I literally went to one of the veteran. He was a CEO of one of the power distribution company in India, and I went to him and I said, I am new to this industry. I've been working from last 1.5 year, 2 years in this, but I don't understand. Can you help me? And to my surprise, Shekhar, he has literally give us 3 days workshop and his top management team. We
Wow.
literally went by train to Kolkata, sat with them, and the veterans, the people who are in industry from last 20 years, 25 years, they did a workshop with us 3 days and shown us what it takes to build the solutions, what are the problems in this industry. That's how we learn.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, what would you say are the typical problems that founders face during the say? Let's look at the first year journey, right? It's the first year of the journey. What kind of challenges did you face, and how would uh,
Yeah,
you
so
know
when we started the so by 2019 we realized that we have ended up creating a product now, because it was all code and everything done by us. It was tested in the market. Only thing was it was a siloed thing. So we first took a project internally and we built the multi-tenant, multi-service platform altogether. We put all our specification, got couple of consultant. That time we started thinking, can we take this globally? Because that time we started getting advice, other than India, where else you can do this? So we structure the product. We got it at least to the demo stage. Then the first problem we faced was we were not able to narrate our story.
ah,
People for a long time, people were not understanding what we do. because we were not able to tell them in as many words. We call that as a brand narrative, brand story. So that was our
Why
first
was that?
problem.
Were you doing a brain squeeze, talking more about technology? What product
No,
features is that? Why?
we were not knowing at all like how to go about it. So how to build your brand story or what are the techniques that needs to be applied, we were not knowing initially at all. That's when we got into this accelerator program with upeka. That's where we came to know what does the brand story means, what does the brand narrative means, how do you create your position. And through those exercises we were able to go to do the market research. We were able to understand how the competition is narrating their story, and things like that. And then we got this, then we build our own premise of this should be our narrative, this should be our positioning. And we went to the market, we tested it with few people through interactions and discussions. And then they started. So I initially, when I did initial call, we used to do 45 minutes call or 30
Hmm,
minutes call, and we still left people confused what exactly we do.
got it.
Then from there, after we did this exercise, we understood. Now exactly in 5 minutes we get the other party, whoever comes, what exactly these guys do.
Okay,
So from 40 30 45 minutes people not understanding to 5 minutes they are getting. That was our first thing, that was our first learning, that was our first problem. So once we got, people started understanding what this product is, what problem it will solve, things like that, what these guys do exactly. Then we got that directionally correct. I'm not saying it's a still it's a journey still evolving, but now we are directionally correct there. People understand this is a shop where I can get a haircut. This is not the shop where I will not have a cup of tea.
got it.
So that is sorted out. After that, we next problem was, now how do we reach out, where do we find our customers,
Ah,
how do we build the market access, how do we build go to market, right? Then again the problem there was, there are thousand things to do.
hmm,
In marketing, if you start, you pick any book or any theory or any philosophy or anybody, people will start telling you thousand things how to do about marketing. There is a digital marketing, there are x number of things in digital marketing, there are channel partners, there are content marketing, there is this, there is that, right? But then what is good for you, right? How do we figure that out? Because if, as a startup, as a initial lean thing, you have x number of resources, be it capital, be it human resources, whatever, and you can only do x number of experiment. If your one
yeah,
experiment fails, then you have lost that much time, that much resources, things like that. So how do you narrow down from that 1,000 things to 20 things, right?
yeah,
Again, we initially tried something, but we were knowing this is not the playbook. We can't start with 1,000 or 100 things. So we work again during the accelerator program, we evaluated very carefully, and we said these are the things not to do in this context. We looked at what is a customer, how are their buying behaviors, what is age group, what are their preferences in those age groups. Do they prefer, will they, if I send them an email, will they read it? Are these
hmm,
people they access email, or are these people who prefer calls or text? Are these people, they will like you to call you and set the online meeting, or are these people who will try to meet you first in physical and build the trust? So
got it,
from our business, our industry point of view, it was important. The age group is like all decision makers are in 45, 50 and above range. Their
got it.
preferences is because this is a enterprise product.
Yeah,
It's a large land, right? So,
yeah,
and it's only one product in one enterprise. You can't have 10 of my product. So it's a careful product selection. That means the trust is important. That means continuity is important. If you are looking at these factors, then what are the channels where these people will go, whom they ask? So we did lot of analysis. We went to a lot of different forums, lot of different stakeholders, and realized, and using that, we ran a smaller experiment. Instead of doing 100 things, we did 20, and out of those 20 we found 7 or 8 that are working for us.
so did you
But
do
that
all
is
this?
actually,
Did you do all this in the first year itself? Were you able
we
to do all
did.
this in the first year, or
No, so it evolved, right? We started with
that-
one premises, but we were very clear that we can't do 100 things. So we
Okay.
narrowed it down. That was a thing we did in first 3 months, first 4 months. And instead of just see,
So when
initially
did you
we
learn
told
that
our.
prioritization was important, right? Because what I'm hearing is another key message, right, to the founders is about prioritizing and focusing and narrowing down things and getting things done, right? So when did you
What
start realizing that?
So during the accelerator program, there were sessions, and that those were very thorough sessions. So
So
we during that.
even before that, how about in during the early days, even before you came to Pekka,
So
did you have an early stage mentor who was able to advise you on some of these things?
so I have a couple of mentors. So one was one of the startup founder who is my college senior. So he guided me, go to this industry, look at these things,
Got it.
gather the information. So I started my initial research in 2019 by going to US and
Okay.
gathered some information. But that was not sufficient for me from where I have to start. The one
Got it.
principle that worked with me, or in our case, Shaker, what not to do. We focused on what not to do from beginning. We
Great.
said, these
That's
keep
I think
keep
that's a
on
great.
removing what not.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that because I think many of the founders we work with, we find that something that they struggle with is they have hundreds of things that they do, and they're
Yeah,
not able to do a what not to do list, right? So it's a very powerful message there.
yeah.
Okay,
And then
so
then
yeah,
then after that, there was another important thing, which was team.
nice.
So
Okay,
I think in initial days, I just I have both the side of the story. So in initial days, I just work with whatever was available.
okay,
If I have a capital constraint, I said I will hire a junior team. If I have a skill constraint, I said I will hire what I get, and then I will try to train that person. But
got it,
eventually, I learned the hard lesson. It backfires.
got it. So
And
when you
then
got
we
yeah, hmm. Go ahead, finish
Yeah,
your thought on it, please. Yeah,
yeah. So then you that lesson helped me to build a very careful uh, considerations for each role. I don't call this as a role, but I started calling these as a characters.
okay,
So if I am playing a match, cricket match, and I need a 11 players, then I need a character. So I
yeah,
define what kind of characters I will need, and then we went very carefully in hiring and building that team. And
got it.
now I can see that careful considerations and things like that now helping us to build the right team and move forward and build the acceleration.
Nice, very nice. So similar to this team building, right, where you are using certain methodologies to make sure you're building the team right way, based on your resources, based on your stage of business, etc. Even when you start, look at the customer wins, right? When you're winning customers initially versus now when you're winning a lot more predictably, are you finding that the process is different? Are there things that founders need to keep in mind when they move from winning the first, say, one customer to five customers versus later on when they are having a
Yeah.
more predictable business?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing is, you will need a playbooks. You will keep on experimenting playbooks, but your initial five is different, right? In initial five you may have a functional and emotional capabilities, but you don't have social capabilities. You don't have a standing in market. But once you do your first two three, your product delivery playbook, your social standing, all those problems start kicking in. Those, if you do that job there, right, so your references and other things will kick in, and more channels will open up, right? So initial 4 5, you have a different kind of challenges. So we see this in the stages. We see this in from pre-seed to seed stage, let's say, just to call a name, right?
Okay,
So you do things completely differently. Your channels, your playbook, how to approach customer is completely different. First three four, then what you do from seed to series A, right? Once you do from seed to series A, because you are doing now 2 to 10, 2 to 15, 2 to 20, that is completely different. Then once you do that from series A to series B, it's going to be another completely different thing, because then you might be looking at either the geography expansion, or you might be looking like a lot of cross sell. So a lot of different things. But can you apply everything on day one? That doesn't work, because
Got it.
you need to carefully consider, you are constantly dealing with the social challenges, right? Social problem, I say, it's a cultural thing. You don't know the market don't know you. You don't know the people, the context. I call all these things as a function, social things. You may have a very great product,
Got it.
right? But then if you don't figure out your social stuff, which takes a little bit time, once you figure out those things, then you can, it start building up on top of that.
Got it. Approximately how many customers do you have?
So we serve around 11 customers so far, and we
Are,
started like,
are these
yeah, and
large
we,
enterprise customers?
yeah, these are large. So we
Enterprise.
serve anywhere between 100,000 to 1,000 consumer utilities.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Got it. And what has been the best customer testimonial so far?
So in initial days in India, there is a big in electricity segment. There is a big uh, uh, commercial losses. So when we started with this customer, we they were having the losses of almost 39%, which means if you sell the electricity of 100 rupees, you're only raising a bill of like 68 rupees or 71 rupees. That's it. The rest
Got it.
of the bill is not even raised. uh,
Okay.
we, with our interventions and technology thing, we were able to move that into around 14% in couple of years. That
Okay.
translates into almost 100 crore rupees of saving for that same company.
Okay.
Similarly,
Okay.
with another gas company, when we started, their cost of collection was pretty high, 7, 8, 9%, and everything was coming in cash, and they need to put a lot of efforts. With
Got
our
it. So
technology intervention, we could move them into like 80% digital thing now.
got it. So did this translate into a very powerful testimonial for you from the
Yes, yeah. So that help us, to build references for other customers.
nice. Okay.
Show how we are building the value, how this platform can build the value for other customers.
How important is that reference based in your industry? If you get a reference from customers, how important is that? And should founders be, what methods they should use to do that, right? To be able
So
to get.
particularly utility industry, Shaker is very reference based industry,
Okay.
and it's very territorial industry. Like if you look at US, we actually today look at county wise customers. So if you
Okay.
once you penetrate in one county and you do a good job,
Hmm.
that same utility can refer you within county, because they all know each other.
Got it. Okay.
And this is an industry where people stick, right? They're in industry from last 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 40 years. I have seen people who are there from last 36 years doing the same thing.
Okay.
So there is a lot of references and there is a lot of trust. So
Okay.
you do one good job at one place and then start building up. So you will get a lot of references. People
Got it.
will refer you. People will tell you this company can get you XYZ things.
Nilesh, one of the founders has a question. It'll be good to answer that. What is your US GTM strategy? What advice do you have for founders to get conversations in the US?
So our GTM strategy is evolved now. So we have four legs. So our primary is events right now. Considering we are dealing with different kind of manufacturing kind of industry where buyers are in the age of 50 plus, they prefer personal touch, personal meeting, and it's a high price product for them, which they will buy with a very careful considerations. So we are finding a lot of interactions and things through event as a channel.
So event
Secondly,
is
we
one of your
also
channels.
one of the primary channel. The second
So
is we are building a very because it's a big market and there are already players, and from our side, relationships or those references is a lacking factor. Like we don't have a lot of references and we don't have the relationship. So we carefully crafted the channel partner as a strategy. We are working with consulting companies, we are working with SIs, smaller SIs, we are
Got
working
it.
with smaller field companies, utility companies, so that with them we can build the more customer base. So that is the second thing. The third thing is we are very carefully building the PR, because it's a product and you need a PR and brand in the market. So we are again there building a very hyper local PR. We are creating a lot of local stories how our product is helping communities there, because this is
Nice.
all about their own communities. And lastly, digital, because my
So
guys doesn't.
where do these stories come? Where do these stories appear?
Which
These
stories?
these local
Local
stories.
papers.
Yeah, local
Local
papers.
papers.
Ah,
Local
interesting.
papers. So
Okay.
we tried this. So last one is a digital marketing, where website and all digital things are required, the
Okay.
outbound and email. Now recently we are started experimenting. We are looking at one county, and instead of doing the digital newspaper, we are trying to do a physical newspaper. We like literally want to print the letters and send it to them.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah,
Interesting. So would you say
I hope.
typically
I
for pretty much all the founders, if they want
Yeah.
to access US as a market, right?
No, so
I would think,
this is so I build the hypothesis. This is my own hypothesis.
yeah,
So
but
you
my
need
point is,
to.
my point would be that for anybody, typically if for any founder who is trying to access US as a market, would you recommend that first they should even go visit US or work
Yes.
from here?
No, they have to go and see. I said social, right? How you are going to solve social by sitting here? That is
Exactly.
your. We
Yeah.
can't see functional building, product building skills is very easy. Building that emotion, you already have that into. That's why you are doing startup, right? Your biggest problem, which you can't underestimate, is a social.
Got it.
And to solve social, you need to go in geography. Otherwise, you will not able to find out what are the preferences and things like that,
Got it. Got it. No, I
right?
think that's a very valuable.
Another consideration for GTM, which I build the hypothesis by interacting with other founders. I started dividing uh, the deal sizes into three categories. So you have a first category which is zero to, or $10,000 and less. The second category which is 10,000 to $50,000, and third category 50,000 and above. This is, I'm talking about land. If your product has a land in this category, then your
Got it.
GTMs will change. The GTM I am applying is for the last category, 50,000 and above.
Got
If
it.
you have a 10,000 and less, then you can't start doing with events. You need to take your digital as a primary channel, because your CAC will not support you otherwise. Your
Ah,
cost of acquisition will be very high and it will not become sustainable. So there you will go through digital discovery more and more. And for customer, the loss is below 10,000. So it's in their affordable loss. They will take a risk with you.
got
They can have two or three products. They can do that experiment. If it doesn't work, I can replace the product tomorrow.
got it.
So
So when did you?
there
Yeah,
there
finish it.
you in 0 to 10,000 less category, you will have to see what kind of customers you are dealing with. It's a like more enterprise or mid market or this, and figure out whether you will get access to this customer digitally. If answer is yes, then I think you reverse the GTM. You start doing digital channel, because the cost of building digital channel is less and you can still do it from here. But to
Got it.
answer your question, Shekhar, people will have to go to geographies, whichever market they are expanding.
Yeah, just that exposure, right? Meeting people, understanding the largeness of the opportunity. Everything is very different when you go meet with some of your potential customers,
Yeah,
right?
correct. I will give a very specific example. Like in recent visit, we got to know instead of emails and calls, people in US are responding more to text. You send an email or you call them or you text them. When you text them, you can get a response from people. They respond to text. Now
Interesting.
now in India, from last 3 4 years, we are so used to WhatsApp. We will not think somebody texting these days.
Nice.
But
Interesting.
that's
Yeah.
that's the behavior, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Correct. So when did you decide to go to the US first? When did you make a personal trip to the US? You know.
So my mentor in 2018 said, Shekhar, if you don't go to US, our sessions are over. I have
uh,
advised you enough. I don't have anything to offer. So my first trip to
Yeah, isn't the
US was
same
in
thing? Isn't the same thing that we were used to say at Upeka too? Whether it is
yes,
Prasanna, Raj, or me, any of us, right? We used to tell you the same thing.
absolutely.
Yeah, interesting.
Absolutely. So
So
my
how?
first trip was in 2019, and then from 20. So I went a couple of times, and then from 2020, every year I started doing 2 3 trips. But then there was a lockdown and everything. So in between there was 18 months, 19 months halt, and then we again started now.
Got it. Got it. So did pandemic, was it did it impact you in a positive way or negative way? How did you manage around that?
So in Indian territory, it did not, like, it was a neutral for us, but in
Okay.
US it delayed our, because in our thing we need to meet people first.
Got it.
There is a
Yeah.
field sales involved, so
Okay.
that got little bit impacted and delayed by, let's say, 12 months because of pandemic.
Okay. Mm. Got it. Got it. And how has your pricing strategy evolved? Any advice to founders in terms of, sometimes startup founders think that, hey, I have to keep my pricing constant, keep changing, or they think that, they have, because it's a software, they have to price it very low. How did your pricing strategy evolve? Did it keep changing on a every month basis, or
So
did it become stable?
no,
What
no.
was what,
So
what advice?
that was a big challenge for us almost for 7 8 months. How do we price the product from the US market point of view?
Sure.
So we did in our marketing team did an excellent job there. These guys literally did a lot of secondary research. We literally digged because these are public utilities. If they
Yeah.
award these kind of contracts, they put a public notes in domain. So we literally
Okay.
found out 12, 13 such contract notes where the contracts were awarded. We got all reasoning, all pricing and everything. We studied that, and using that we build our initial plan, that this is how we packaged it into the three segments: smart billing, smart workforce, and smart utility. And then we said, for different tiers, if you give me 10,000 consumers, my price is going to be X. If 20,000 consumers, 50,000 consumers, my price is going to be Y.
Got it.
And we took it to market, we tested it with people, and then we have to do a little bit calibration to start with. That's
Got it.
how we went about pricing.
Got it. So, do you think that you have your pricing is stable now, or you think it'll continue to evolve?
It evolve. It
Time?
will evolve.
Yeah, I think so. That is the message, for founders is, you'll have to, pricing is not going to
See,
be constant.
it's not
And
going to be it's not going to be constant, because this is all land and expand game.
okay,
So we might start a small pilot, but then we know within with that customer there are so many things to do down the line. We can bring them into another things. We are launching a app marketplace, so they can use other applications or other partner solutions to do XYZ things. So,
got
and
it,
see the value we will build templates. In the smaller utility, that knowledge base, that recipe has a value rather than the platform. Down the
got
line, those recipes will become more and more valuable because those are proven recipe. So
got
because of those proven recipes and the value we build around that, we will able to dictate or drive better price for the same thing down the line.
interesting. Hmm. Got it. Nilesh, a couple of other thoughts I have, right? So it's like when you started the company, and where you were if I believe, if I am right, you are a single co-founder,
Yes. So
single founder model,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
then you had to bring in some people in the co-founder kind of
Yeah, so
uh,
I'm there, and I have a 4 5 people leadership team with me,
leadership
who
team.
are
Okay.
in charge of one specific function.
So initially, would you say you were a generalist or a specialist, and when did you decide to bring in more specialists to help you with it? How should founders think about this?
So it's a very difficult question, Shekhar. So my first 3 years went in doing the jugglery. So I used to do sales for 3 months, used to build the pipeline. One next 3 months, I used to do the delivery with my team with the support.
Interesting.
Then because I didn't do the sales for first 3 months, then my pipeline used to dry. Then again, I used to do the sales. So my first 3 years went like this,
Got it. Okay.
sinusoidal, right? Up, then I have a pipeline, then it goes down, then again. So that's how the initial 3 years were there. But when I look back, it worked for us. We were lean, we were 2 3 people, right? I got
Got it.
complimented in some utility specific work by somebody. I got my HR and operations person who complimented me from the HR point of view. But it's a very delicate call, right? In initial days, you are in a custom or genesis phase, right? You are evolving things, and even how hard you try to give it to somebody else, you may not able to. So initial days when you are in the genesis and custom solution phase, everything is custom. That time, it works very easily if you are doing the things. But when you have a processes, when you have standard way of doing things, you can explain those things to people, you can write it down and say, can you read this and understand. When you get into that stage, that time, bringing in a team and explaining them and asking them, now you apply your deep expertise here and take this, even to the much detailed level. I think that's when it works.
Got
I
it.
hope I
So
answered your
what I'm
question.
hearing is, yeah, I think you're answering. It's a good point, right? Because what I'm hearing, and I align with that, right, is initially as a founder, you have to take on something and then understand that very well, make sure that things are working, and then when it is ready to, that somebody can come in and take it on, you provide that to them, right? So I think founders tend to normally be generalists initially, and then they will get help, build a leadership team who can actually take on things on a specific model. But
Yeah,
one
and
of the things, yeah,
in
go
doing
ahead.
so, you also understand what are your couple of comfort areas, right?
Okay,
You in When you juggle, when you do things, you eventually start understanding that these are the two things you are very comfortable with. So that's where you start doing more and more, because those are your specialty areas. That's where you are comfortable. You can do a much better job there, and rest of the things you can start building up with
got it.
the other experts.
So many times, what we see is, when we work with founders, is they get bogged down with software programming or coding, or product from an internal perspective, and many of the customer-based discussions, exploration to understand the problem value, high value problem, right? Finding out, sharpening the ICP, and all those things sometimes takes low priority. What is your thoughts? How should founders uh, look at that?
No, I think in some way I also did that mistake initially. I like spent almost 18 months just building my product and not going in the market. But
Okay,
it should be other way around. Your sales and marketing needs to be 18 months ahead of your product,
okay,
right? See, it's a problem you are solving. We are in a, I keep on telling my team also, we are in a problem solving business. We are not in a business of developing software, or we are not in a business of developing models or things like that. And in that also, it's not that functional problem we are solving. If you are engineer or you have this education, you are very good at functional things. The bigger challenges for us is how we solve those social challenges, social problems. How do we solve those emotional problems? So that requires a lot of work. And again, functional problems you can solve in days, but for social you need months, years, and emotional sometimes can take ages. So when you are in this journey building and spending a lot of time, see, if I had a just working prototype and I would have gone to customer and shown them, this is my
hmm,
product, this is what it can do, they would have understood, right? But then I did exactly other way around, where my first 12 to 18 months just went in building product. And I want to just have a very right set of working things. But sometimes you can just take your working prototype, show it to people, and they will tell you, if this is going to work, or they need a smaller tweaks and everything. And you evolve, and then when you go live, your product is exactly matching with what customers are looking for for what they want to pay.
got it, got it. So there's another founder who has made a comment. So he says, great point around staying lean, from Debbie Carr, right? I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Debbie Carr is the founder name. Says, great point around staying lean and being okay with ups and downs. What I loved is early days are a lot of custom,
Correct.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
so so maybe this is a good segue to understanding, if you were to do this again, if you were to do your startup again, what would be, say, top three things that you would do differently?
So instead of doing product this time, I will first build my flywheel. I will look at, what are my segments, what market I am looking at, what problem I'm going to solve. Once I have my initial stuff, I will go to market first rather than building something in house, right? Explain them, this is what I will do. And then once they I will give example, right? I used to tell when I learned this infatuation. You are in a business of goldsmith. So first thing is whether you can talk the goldsmith language or not. Then you take those goldsmith and start doing. Then once you take your ornaments to the market will tell whether they're going to buy bangles or they're going to buy something else, right? What is you are good at, the market is going to tell. Then you double down whether you want to do more and more bangles or you want to do something else, right? And this is all sales and marketing first, rather than, otherwise I can go and I can generally what we do, we just bring all set of ornaments. I can provide this, I can provide this, my shop can do this, my shop can do this. But there is no demand for all those. There are just, because there is a wedding season going on, everybody is focused on only two products, nobody
Sure.
needs anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that market only can tell you. So if I have to do it differently, I will do my branding, brand narratives, this reaching out to people, figuring out what problem, how they are narrating that problem, these things first, how much they will pay for those problems, and then go back in my cooking shop, in my kitchen, and build it.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else that you would add in terms of what you would do different, or
Yeah, again, a lot of people, I also got into the same trap initially. Capital raising, right? A lot of people get into, can I raise capital after a year, 2 years, right? Again, if you start, whether it's a team building, whether it's building a product, whether it's building a sales and marketing, we are constantly in problem solving zone. Once you identify a problem, you have resources to apply, whether it's skill, knowledge, capital. So a lot of times you can get a lot of much better alternatives to capital. So again, instead of harping on how do I apply capitals, I will focus on how do I bring resources to the table that I need to apply. The
got it?
capital can be one of the resource.
Got it.
Yeah.
Correct. So whatever, I completely agree with you. Right. There are a lot of things that you can actually solve, right, by using good principles of effectuation that capital could have solved.
Yeah.
It really depends on our creativity to be able to use, to find ways by which we do this, right? And then of
Yeah.
course there will be some things that only capital can solve, and you'll have to use that also, right? But
Yeah.
that judgment has to come from the founder, and they have to do it the right way. As you said, it's very interesting. I've interacted with you now for, from the time you've started with Upeka, and I hear your language. When I hear your language about SaaS flywheel, and your thought process in terms of being business oriented rather than just, and customer oriented, right? Customer oriented and business oriented feels very good, right?
Yeah.
You seem to have come a very long way in how you think about it. So one of the things I really want to
Thanks.
understand, and also I know we, personally, I interacted with you when we funded you a small amount, and the idea was to make sure that if we fund you 100K, you can stay focused on the business rather than having to run around and trying to get money, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I would really like for you to help other founders understand is about the value SaaS community. How has that value SaaS community, what does it mean to you, and how has that helped, right? Not just as Upeka, but Upeka's founders, your community that you have created through, working with Upeka and outside, right? Just
Yeah.
before we get to that, just keep that in mind. But before we get to that, there is one question that has come from Brigain Kapadia. He asks you, can Nilesh elaborate on the 0 to 10K GTM that you spoke about? Do you want to add something about 0 to 10K GTM?
Yeah, so if once you are in that 0 to 10 GTM, which means your land or your product value is 10K a year, which means if you are looking into geography, so you have options, right? Which channel you adopt. which channel you harp on. Now you have to see if your cost of acquisition is 20K, if you deploy, let's say, field sales, which will cost you in US market, let's say 200K a year, which means to even recover that money, that person has to do 20 deals, right, in a year minimum. So you need to look at what your segment, how much your land is, and focus on CAC, what is my cost of acquisition, and what channels can support me to justify that CAC, and whether that channel will give me the access to my customers, whether my customers are digital savvy. Will they come and make the decision? Will they evaluate me in the digital space? Can I build the trust with them? Is 10K in their affordable loss? Can I take the decision online? So you'll have to evaluate these things and then figure out your GTM. Otherwise will be doing everything, you will starting a good website, SEO, all outbound, everybody, the standard playbooks that are there. So all those tools are there, but you need to contextualize lot. You need to ask those questions: where my customer goes, how or he or she consumes information, where he or she is looking for advice, what kind of problems they are facing, and how they are solving these things. Till you don't figure this out, just going and saying I will do this GTM is going to backfire.
Got it. Got it. So,
So
so
you will
for
lose time.
yeah,
Most importantly, you will lose time and energy.
got it. So I'll just clarify for the sake of the founders, right? Especially the person who asked the question. So when you meant CAC, you're talking about the customer acquisition cost, how much it is going to cost to acquire one customer, correct?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you're saying that depending on the ACV or the annual contract value, the GTM has to be tailored accordingly, so that
Yes.
the unit economics works, right? So
Exactly.
that's what I'm hearing, and
So
great.
all yeah. So all these are jargons, simple things. If I'm selling a 10,000 rupees product, can I invest 20,000 rupees to sell that product?
Got it.
Right?
Yeah,
If I'm selling a $10,000 product, can I do a 6 months, and can I do $20,000 investment? And then if that customer is only going to use it for 1 year and then not going to turn up, then I actually, as a businessman, I made a 10,000 rupees loss in that year on that particular sale.
got it.
So you need to
Got it.
be very careful. Can I do, if my CAC is cost of acquisition is X, can I do a ACV at least 5X? Can, if
Got it.
I my CAC is like $2,000, can I do a $10,000 sale? If
Got it.
this is not working somehow for you, then eventually it will backfire. It's a mathematics.
Super. Great. So I think closing thoughts, right? Before that, what does the value says community? So I asked you to hold that thought. What does that value says community mean to you?
Yeah, same thing, Shekhar, right? Value SaaS is, if 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 I take that capital and start doing all thousand experiments, it's all wastage, right? You know only 10, 20 things, 30 things you are going it's going to work for you. Then, because I don't know, starting all those experiments simultaneously because you have capital, and then burning your equity, and then burning your people in all direction, and then figuring out 10 things, I don't think it's a common sense. The better thing is remove all everything, be lean, and build that value, right? Because you how to build the GTM, how much you have spent, how much energy and time you have spent. If you can do that in a better way, by rather than taking a lot of capital and lot of resources, instead of calling capital, I will say a lot of resources, right? You
Got
got capital, you got people, you got methods, you got knowledge, you got skills, you're all applying and then figuring out. You apply 1,000 things and you figure out 10 things, I think this is wastage, right?
got it.
I think founders are very smart animals. If they can reject things and figure out 20, 30 things, I don't think, I'm not saying, out of 20 things, all 20 things will work out. But if you take a smaller set, do a little bit smart job in terms of, rejecting things, in my context, these things are not going to work out. And then take a smaller subset and work around that. I think that's the value says, because you already remove a lot of waste, which is not
Got it.
going to work in your case. And which means you are burning less resources, less capital, less things, and that will all work in your favor down the line, because you are holding your equity, you are figuring out, how to do these things. Otherwise, if I have a capital, I will, okay, let's bring 10 people and let's figure this out, right? But here you are trying to push the envelope forward, trying to be more innovative, trying to build that value forward, right? So so I think, doing that lot of wastage, if you figure it out how to do this effectively by burning less resources, not just the less capital, I think that's where you are creating that value, and that
Great.
value will work in your favor, in your employees as well as your customer.
Great. And what's your thoughts on the community itself, the value sales community? I'm assuming you're interacting with founders, other founders on a daily basis, sharing thoughts, ideas from each other. How is that?
It's a great, see, it's a, it gives you identity. One thing, you have a fallback mechanism. Somebody would have done so. See, a lot of times that doubt is there when you try to do the experiment. Will it work? Right now,
Uh,
here there is this 140 people values as community. I can go back to them and I said, I am going to do something like this. Did it work? Whatever the problems you incurred, what are the blind spot in my stuff, right? And upfront I can, get a lot of effective information or critical information not to do. So I'm avoiding a lot of mistakes people would have done. And we are all there, right? If some people are in series A, if people are in seed round, we know what challenges they are facing down the line once they reach there, right? That itself is a learning for us, how to do the things, how to approach them, whether it's a new market, whether it's a new customer, large customers, mid-sized customer. So there is a lot of knowledge. And in one or another pocket, within this tribe, within this SaaS value SaaS community, somebody would have figured out or somebody would have failed about it. So there is a already knowledge available, and having access to this is a wealth for me. I can't get this by applying, $500,000.
nice.
This
That's
is
very good.
this is this is lot
That,
of value, right?
that's great to hear that. Very nice. Very
because
nice.
because somebody once told me, like, a fourth standard guy can teach a very good mathematics to the third standard guy rather than a teacher.
Nice. Interesting. Very good. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Any other closing thoughts, Nilesh? I think we're running, just getting to the time limit. So, any closing thoughts?
um, yeah, I think, the problem solving is very important. What problem you are solving, don't underestimate the social angle of everything, right? If you are entering the from one market to another market, it's a completely different ball game, because it's a completely different set of people, their belief system, their buying behavior, their interactions, how they do the things is completely different. Don't underestimate these things, because these play a bigger role in, doing the sales, solving that problem.
Nice. Okay. I no, I understand you are heading off to a vacation, right? Today or tomorrow morning, and in
Today,
spite of that, you took the time to come share your thoughts with founders. Really appreciate that. And
appreciate
yeah,
Shekhar.
I just want to wish you the best for your vacation and for your business and growing this to, we want to see you there with the, if not with the unicorns, but at least where you are happy that your value was delivered to the customers, the community, and your shareholders and yourself.
Appreciate that, Shekhar. Yeah, thanks for those wishes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.